It's not even been a couple of weeks since our video covering Binance's cross-chain bridge hack, and we're already back with another video on cross-chain bridges. This time though, we're zeroing in on Multichain, the bridging platform with nearly $1.5 billion in total value locked. That's the second largest bridge after Polygon PoS. No, Multichain hasn't just been hacked, but what we are seeing is dubious activity on the network that's only fueling more doubt about the vulnerabilities of cross-chain bridges. Our very own Defiant reporter Aleks Gilbert broke the news just yesterday. So let's have a little deep dive into Multichain, shall we? Cross-chain bridges. This is where the vast majority of hacks and crypto losses have occurred this year. And in fact, the crypto space witnessed $570 million getting stolen from Binance's BNB chain, which had followed two other hacks where more than $600 million was taken from Ronin network and another $300 million was hacked off the Wormhole bridge. These are seriously big sums of money, there's no doubt about that. And especially when you consider that cross-chain bridges are meant to be reliable, simple ways for users to transfer digital assets between blockchains. For that reason, cross-chain bridges are under a massive magnifying glass at the moment, receiving intense scrutiny from third-party watchers such as L2Beat, who, as we know, are a research project analyzing the Layer 2 blockchain space. And when the Defiant had exclusive conversations with L2Beat about their findings, they ended up highlighting something odd was happening with one of the largest bridges out there. So when doing a deep dive into Multichain, a massive bridge that supports 3,000 tokens and 69 chains, L2Beat found out that Multichain had transferred $80 million in stablecoins and around 300 Bitcoin, which is worth about $6 million, to provide liquidity elsewhere in the network back in 2021. What made the transfer really dodgy though is that millions that the Multichain transferred were funds from escrow, aka not Multichain's own money, but actually their users' money. Now what this means is that either Multichain's users agreed to this, or Multichain's broken a social contract with its users by using their money without declaring their intentions. So far we just don't know. We've asked multiple times for a comment, and Multichain have ignored. And unfortunately, there's also another question we can't exactly answer. Where did the money go? According to L2Beat, the transfer of tokens from escrow can be seen on chain, but where those tokens ultimately went is a mystery, and that's problematic. Michael Llewellyn, the head of solutions at crypto security firm Open Zeppelin, told the Defiant that it's concerning that there's no clear way to identify assets that the bridge claims to back in a place that's publicly verifiable. So in that sense, it's really no different than a regular bank and its siloed, opaque system for money transfers. Now, we can't see where the money went, sure, but Multichain and its representatives have told L2Beat that the crypto has been used to supply liquidity pools across different chains. And in their opinion, this isn't problematic because the money supposedly still resides in the Multichain ecosystem, so users should be able to withdraw the amount they need. But again, there's no way to confirm this, and it's unclear, at least from their website, whether users are even aware that their funds are being deployed elsewhere. The thing with cross-chain bridges is that on paper, they appear simple. You tell them where to send the tokens and they execute on that request. But in practice, the code and the smart contracts they depend on are extremely complicated, which is also why hackers keep finding small vulnerabilities to exploit. And because they're so complicated, there's just no way to analyze the entire multi-chain ecosystem to even verify their claims. So, as Michael Llewellyn pointed out to us yesterday, even for liquidity networks, there's at least a way to look at the different pools and the different chains, so you can begin to identify that the overall assets issued by a bridge match up with some liquidity pool elsewhere. Traders have to trust that these bridges have enough funds to back the network. And Llewellyn's also noticed that Multichain may not have adequate backing everywhere. He says that there appears to be less of the stablecoin DAI in Multichain's Phantom bridge than there are Multichain minted DAI tokens on Phantom, a Layer 1 blockchain. L2Beat also says that the $52 million in DAI token which was bridged to Phantom was allegedly removed from escrow by Multichain validators. Now that may not be a problem now, but Llewellyn beckons us to imagine this very specific scenario. What if DAI were to lose its peg to the US dollar, and people with DAI on Phantom wanted to quickly redeem that DAI for USD? What would probably happen is that they'd lose a significant amount of money in the time that it takes to locate and transfer the DAI that should have just been sitting in escrow in the first place. So, as Llewellyn puts it, it's not that this is going to happen today, but it could happen if these factors line up in a way that's not really favorable for Multichain. And I think that's generally where the concern comes from. It's just not having enough clarity around how Multichain is managing this risk. So how bad is the worst case scenario? Well, as we said earlier, Multichain doesn't believe it's problematic that they're supposedly using money from escrow to supply the liquidity pools across different chains. Some might also agree that this practice is fine. One could make the argument that investors who are concerned with maximizing returns shouldn't really care about financial mechanisms when it comes to something like Multichain. After all, the platform positions itself as a cross-chain ecosystem, so it shouldn't really come as a revelation that coins are being moved between chains for whatever reason. But realistically, if a crisis scenario emerges for whatever reason and causes the equivalent of a bank run, we think people will care. They'll care a lot. They'll care about where their funds are being held and how quickly they can withdraw the funds to avoid losing value. The bottom line really is transparency. As long as users agree to how protocols are using their funds, and ideally they're able to verify on-chain that what they agree to is actually being followed, then there shouldn't be an issue. All in all, we're looking at yet another crease in the complicated relationship we have with protocols storing our tokens. While it's certainly not time to ring any doomsday bells about multi-chains moving around of some escrow funds, it should serve as a gentle reminder that people who want to trust DeFi protocols also want to benefit from mechanisms like yield farming and liquidity provision. So all that's really left to remember is DeFi should be a transparent, immutable financial infrastructure, and we can avoid giving people a reason to shriek by just not shadily moving around large sums of their money. Let us know in the comments how you feel about all of this, and make sure to tune into the weekly recap tomorrow.